Welcome into the DNVR Avalanche podcast. We've got AJ, we've got Biggie, we've got Rudo coming to you live. We talked about it yesterday of the potential of Brock Nelson staying in Colorado. And today, on the day of Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final, it is officially signed. This morning, the Avs signed Brock Nelson to a 3-year, $7.5 million AAV deal. Before we get into all the nitty-gritty, and we'll break down a bunch of numbers for you on this show, just initial reaction to the contract and the Avs locking in their 2C.
I mean, $7.5 million is probably a touch higher than we all were hoping for, but 3 years really keeps you away from like deep age-related decline. And I mean, we talked about all the reasons why keeping Brock Nelson is a good thing on yesterday's show. I think we just will reiterate a lot of them today. Brock Nelson, really good. So, you know, he's this. We said yesterday it opens up their entire offseason. All of that remains true because now the heart of their lineup is locked in. Their top 6 forwards, their top defensive pairing, and both of their goaltenders are done. Now you're just working around the margins here.
I love it. I absolutely love it. We talked about it. Chat talked about it. The management talked about it. Their number one thing to do was to figure out Brock Nelson because it was going to dictate the course of their summer. I love that what's today? June 4th. It didn't drag. We talked about that yesterday, right? It didn't drag. I was saying yesterday, I'm hoping that if he doesn't sign with that he's already told them I'm not interested. Obviously, that was not the case, which is awesome because now you got the whole month to be able to attack and files and to really know where you're going. So I love the fact that he didn't drag it. I love the fact that the Avalanche didn't drag it. They must have a plan in place. I know they have a plan in place. They do have a plan in place. They do everything with diligence and smarts. So I'm excited for it. I think that it makes a big difference that they got that business done today.
Yeah, I do think there are some realities at a $7.5 million mark. There are going to be some pretty decent expectations of Brock Nelson playing at a fairly high level for the Avalanche. And while I do believe he's capable of that, there is going to be some pressure on there. As AJ mentioned on the other side of it, look, a 3-year deal is fairly risk-free for me. I mean, yeah, maybe things don't go great, but you can get out of that contract if you have to. If you're looking at 1 year left on a deal, it's not that hard to bail out of those deals in various different ways. So I do think the Avs did a very good job of protecting themselves on the term of the deal, but the actual dollar value, yeah, you're going to need the good version of Brock Nelson, the guy that's capable of scoring you 30 goals in a season. That is going to be the expectation for Brock. So,
yeah, I also think, look, this is going to be a show where I throw a lot of numbers at people and I get into a lot of really nerdy stuff. I would apologize, but that's
you don't know that's who we are by now. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, honestly, that's on you guys. I would say I know that there are people that have issues with his postseason. I think some of that is fair. He scored 0 goals in the playoffs. I think goal scoring in general, outside of Nathan McKinnon and Logan O'Connor, was a problem for the Avalanche as a team. Laying all of that at Brock Nelson's feet, it was a team-wide, epidemic, I guess, like a contagion of mediocrity and disappointment. So I think that I think that I'm going to overlook that for the moment and just say look over the last 4 NHL seasons, he's 27th in the NHL in goals. Like, this is a guy that puts pucks in the net, but you also compare what they're going from to what they're going to. And you look, he had 13 points in 19 games in the regular season as an Av. It's not amazing. It's not overwhelming. It's a 56-point pace. But that would be the most that they've had from a second line center since JT Compher in the Cup defense season. Like, that's how bad this has been. But you also look at it and say 13 points in 19 games. Casey Middlestat gave them 13 points in his last 34 games. And Brock Nelson had more goals than
Yeah.
Middlestat did in that same time. So you are talking about a different style of player, where Ryan Johansson and Casey Middlestat failed were guys who were not good skaters and were a lot more perimeter-oriented playmakers. Brock Nelson is not that guy. He wants to get to the middle of the ice. And I think we have his skating data. We're just going to jump right into this. Tiff, can you hit me with the skating numbers? Because you'll see that this is a guy that plays with a high pace.
Zoom.
Yeah, you look at him. I mean, this is top speed. All right, so he's not the elite of the elite in the top speed, but the rest of this, you look at those bottom two numbers, he is playing at a significantly higher pace than almost all the other forwards in the NHL. I know that he's 33 and there's a lot of worries about, when does he slow down? It hasn't happened yet. If these numbers were more middle of the pack of the pack, you would say, I'm concerned about this. But as he gets older, he's got a lot of room to go back to the to league average in terms of the skating. And if we can just hit his micro stats too, you can see that playing with pace as a rush oriented forward is something that he is still doing at a really high level here. You see rush shots in the 95th percentile. 95th percentile. Like that's an Avs forward to a T right there. He scores a lot of goals, he produces a lot of scoring chances, and he scores off the rush in particular. He shoots a lot, and he produces assists from shooting. Not
Rebound
so much of a
assists.
natural playmaker. Like he'll have a lot of the shot assists. So you put all of that package together. You add in the fact that he's giant. He's 6'4", and you have a completely different profile than what we have seen not work at the 2C position for the last couple of years for the Avs.
E, did you have something to say? This looked like you did earlier. You're muted.
Middlestat, for example. I think that's what you said earlier. I mean, if you show that graph about Middlestat, it doesn't show that. Correct. You know what I mean? I'm not asking you to show it, but
It does not.
and that's my point.
It's
I'm
bad.
not bagging on Casey. It's a question of fit. This guy is an Avalanche fit. You mentioned that 2 seconds ago. Graphs show it. The eye test shows it when you watch the game. He's lanky. He's smart, and he moves. And when you do that, and then you throw him Val and Gabe, assuming that those are the things that he's going to be with, because we're assuming, then that's an Avalanche player. That's why they got him at the deadline. That's why it was a great acquisition at the deadline. And I'm going back to what I said last weekend. I talked to 2 general managers from the current GMs in the National Hockey League. They would have made that same deal. So
he was definitely getting 7.5 in free agency for sure.
That's what I'm saying. So he's definitely getting it. So at some point, the Avalanche, that's not because of what they gave up that they signed Brock. It's because that's where they're at, and that's what they needed to do. And it worked out good. And the player has a lot to say in this. I tell you guys all of that. I tip my hat to the player. There you go, DNVR hat. I'll tip my hat to the player, because I think that what he did, it speaks a lot and volumes about. And again, I don't know Brock. It speaks volume about what he is as a person, and understanding when you're trying to win as an organization. Yes, there are triggers, July 1st and all that kind of stuff. But man, oh man, When you know in advance and when you're working out, like now, Joel, June 4th, that is a massive, massive push to the Avalanche front office because it makes them be able to complete their plan and keep going with their plan. So I put my hat on as a player, and I give him kudos because that is awesome. That's a big push to the Avalanche that he made there.
Yeah,
I
there's
think
a couple of things. Just to jump off of what you're talking about with fit with the Avalanche, because I think this is another one of those categories where people like to make things more black and white than they actually are.
Yeah.
Because yes, Brock Nelson fits the Avs when you look at that skating data, when you look at his ability to keep up and play with pace and play that rush game that the Colorado Avalanche like to play. But while he fits in, he also brings something that the Avs have lacked, and that is some of that net front presence, getting to some of the dirty areas and having that finishing ability. And you take a look at someone like Nelson added into that system for more than just 15 games at the end of the season. And then you add on top of that a potential return of Gabe Landeskog, and the Avs go from a second line that had serious issues putting the puck in the back of the net, unless your name is Arturi Lehkonen, who was playing on the top line for a lot of that, to all of a sudden, you're now talking about a potential second line of 3 20-plus goal scorers playing for you next season.
Yeah, I mean, obviously injuries played a role in this, but at the start of last year, you went from Nikolai Kovalenko, Casey Middlestad, and Ivan to Gabe Landeskog, Brock Nelson, and Val Nichushkin.
Yeah.
Like, there's a pretty significant upgrade there. And if you look at how they lost in that first round playoff series, it wasn't at 5v5. And Brock Nelson wasn't a guy that played a lot on the special teams. He didn't get very much power play time, didn't have an opportunity. That is a major area where I think the Avalanche could better utilize him. If you are looking at, is he going to experience a decrease in the goals that he's been scoring? Very likely. And I think the power play time is going to be a big part of that. Over the last couple of years with the Islanders before their power play completely cratered last season, he had been a guy the last couple of years. He had 11 power play goals, 6 power play goals, and 9 power play goals. He had 1 last season with the Islanders, 1, and somehow managed 2 with Colorado in those 19 games. So you're talking about like he's gonna lose some of that, but I'm hopeful that the new whoever is going to be brought in to help run the power play will be more open-minded to utilize Nelson's skill set on the top power play unit, because his puck retrieval and his scoring ability right around the front of the net are things that I think he's just better at those things than both Nichushkin and Lehkonen. So he
Just
should
to
be
back that
priority
up,
there.
we have the power play data, which Tiff can pull up here. It's small sample size, obviously. I think he played maybe 50 minutes in Colorado on the power play just because of the limited number of games. But look at the difference at the net front in those two charts without Nelson and with Nelson. It's a massive, massive difference. That's one of the critical parts of the Avs power play, which struggled, is having those second chance opportunities off of rebounds and things like that. Yeah, the Avs had other issues hesitating to shoot and issues like that. But part of the situation there is because they didn't have a guy like Brock Nelson helping them in those slotted net front areas. And I do think that is maybe one of the biggest areas for growth that the Avs have, especially with whatever new power play coach they end up having coming in. There's an opportunity here, and Brock Nelson should probably be at the center of it.
I agree, and that helps, and that helps your numbers, right? Because you're not getting the burger 5 seconds, you know what I mean, with no cheese.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it makes a big difference. And then people say, well, you didn't produce. Well, but if you don't get out there, it's tough to produce. And then the graph shows you right there. And again, we'll see. They're going to have to, again, that's another show, but you did put that in your timeline today, like, usage of like a second power play. That's for a different,
The commitment to Brock means they have to do something more there, right?
You have to do something. You know what I mean? You can't keep going like this. And I understand when they're humming, great, awesome. If they're humming, I got no problem. But more often than not, they're not humming. So I'm sorry. And that's reality. But when they hum, yeah, great, awesome. Oh, they went 9 for 10. Great, awesome. But then if at the opportune times you're not there, you have to look at things like that. And I think the graphs and, the players that you have can speak for themselves. But we'll talk about that another time. But Brock is a great net front guy, bumper slash, power play guy. Use him to his capabilities.
The other side of this with Brock, actually, before we get into this, we do need to pay a few bills. So let's make sure we hit that first, and then we can continue talking about Brock and Nelson staying with the Colorado Avalanche. So if you guys want to smell like a good deal, Brock Nelson's deal might smell like a good deal. That's where Mando comes into play. Don't smell like a stinky deal, chat. Make sure you're in with Mando. They take care of all of men's body parts, including pits, belly buttons, balls, butt cracks, grundles, even more than that. Mando's got you fully covered wherever it is you might need to smell better. So make sure you're getting with Mando today. You can go order their starter kit today. And when you use code DNVR to get that starter kit, you'll get a $5 off and free shipping. That's, by the way, saving 40% on the starter kit. So pretty good deal. The starter kit comes with 2 deodorants, both cream and tube, and then 2 items of your choice. So you can get in. They have a bunch of amazing scents, including bourbon leather, clover woods, Mount Fuji, and Pro Sport. So whatever you want to smell like, they've got you covered over at Mando. Go get that Mando starter pack today. It's perfect for new customers. Again, use the DNVR code to get $5 off the starter pack and free shipping. Again, that's DNVR at shopmando.com, shopmando.com today. Please support our show. Let them know we sent you over there. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe with Mando. Once you're smelling good, feeling good, looking good, make sure you're also getting with the Hall of Fame app. Look, we're hockey people, right? Betting on hockey is really hard. Like, it's one of the hardest pro sports to bet on because of the randomness. If you want to increase your chances of having success, that's where the Hall of Fame app comes into play. It's not your buddy's group chat full of hot takes. It's a full analytics engine. The Hall of Fame app gives you access to advanced stats, historical data, and powerful tools to help you bet smarter. The app is built for the everyday sports fan, so it's easy and intuitive to use. You'll get an idea of your parlay's chances to hit and identify weak legs so you can weed them out before you place them. Whatever sport you happen to be getting into, the Hall of Fame app gives you beautiful charts, clean visuals, and real insight, not hype. So make sure you get with the Hall of Fame app today. For a limited time only, our listeners not only get a 7-day free trial, but they also get 50% off their first month when they use code DNVR at checkout. Just download the Hall of Fame app on iOS and Android, or visit hallofamebets.com. That's HOFbets.com today. Enter code DNVR and you're all set. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. I did want to touch on this really quickly. Someone in chat said it. I don't know who, but they were talking about, does the price of the Brock Nelson trade look better knowing that he's not a pure rental now, knowing that he's staying in Colorado for the next couple of years, few years, I guess?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, of course. Knowing that this is now a 3 and change year deal, you're comfortable giving up that first. And I mean, the first in Richie, it's like top of the line money for a deal, right? Like, asset wise, like, that's a team's top prospect, and a first round pick is just like, that's tip top assets. That's what you go into every trade hoping that you're going to get. And the Avs gave those, and it's okay. It's more palatable, but if you don't win anything with it, I guess it doesn't really matter. And if Cal Ritchie becomes
the truth, yeah.
Patrice Bergeron, then you're gonna feel bad about it.
Cal Ritchie
But
becomes
when
Patrice Bergeron, I'll retire.
Yeah, when he doesn't become Patrice Bergeron, whatever. We'll see how Ritchie does in that first round pick.
That's not even. I'm not hating. Cal Ritchie may well become a really good hockey player. He's not Patrice Bergeron.
No.
I also feel pretty comfortable saying that. Yeah. But I mean, you do feel better that the Avs have gone big on some of these deadlines over the last couple of years, and they've kept a handful of these guys. They have found ways to keep some of these cats. So Sean Walker's like their most expensive deadline acquisition that walked on them, thus the name Walker, I suppose. But
Got him.
Also, part of the acquisition cost there was getting rid of Johansson's contracts
Yeah.
without retaining any money or anything. So that's it's better, but I'm going to derail this. I want to go back to talking about Brock Nelson standing in front of the net and shooting pucks, because I went and grabbed this data. Where you guys talked about him being in that bumper spot right in front of the net on the power play. Tiff, can you please hit us with the high danger shots or the high danger goals data that I went and grabbed? Look at this. 14 goals. 14 goals in the high danger part of the ice. League average for a forward is 6. His shots on goal, 63 of them, more than double what most forwards are doing in that part of the ice. And you're just talking like this is a guy that it's a perfect tonic to what they really need. And I think that it's a very fair point to say, hey, if he's so good at doing all these things, why didn't we see all of them in the postseason series against Dallas? Where was he? And I guess I would just say, the only thing that they were missing was the finish. Because I'm just gonna hit you with a couple more numbers here that I pulled up. 5v5 in that series. Across the 5 games that Gabe Landeskog was available for that series at 5v5. Landeskog,
They're the
Nelson,
best lineup in the playoffs. They're the best line.
42 minutes and 4 seconds together, okay? Shots on goal were 28-13. Scoring chances were 30-13. High danger chances were 10-5. Goals were only 4-2. If that line is going to play like that, it's the best line in the NHL next season. It's the most dominant line in the NHL next season if they're going to be able to put up that kind of production. And that's against a team whose like forward depth is its calling card. All they needed was one more goal. But you say that about the entire Avalanche team. The entire team needed one more goal. And that's how it is. Somebody asked their expected goals percentage. It was 67.78. All of the percentages across the board are outrageously high. They did everything right. This was a line that blew up and found incredible chemistry together. And at times was their very, very best line in a couple of games. And that's with the McKinnon, the Lehkonen, McKinnon, Netchus line also having a couple of dominant lines. But the biggest thing about that line, about the McKinnon line, is that it gave a lot of it back defensively. Bad defensive line. The Nelson line didn't do as much of that. There was nowhere near the level of scoring chances and high danger chances allowed as the McKinnon line, which tracks with how the McKinnon line operated all season long, honestly. Honestly, that's just who they were all year. But that Brock Nelson line is nasty. And now you look at that top 6, it doesn't even have to be that line in particular. That top 6 is now together. They're all locked in. They're all locked in for, I think, 2 seasons until Lehkonen needs a new deal. Well, I guess Netchus next year. Anyway, they're locked in for the upcoming season for sure. So we'll see. We'll see if they can stay healthy. Like, this is a very different dynamic in Colorado's forward core that we just have not seen in the last 3 seasons.
I think it's worth noting a couple of things there too. One, yeah, he did not score any goals in that playoff series. That's also a 7-game sample size. If you look at his career in the playoffs, is he an elite goal scorer? No, but he's able to put the puck in the back of the net in the playoffs. And then 2, in the 19 games he played in Colorado, he scores 6 goals. It's a 25-goal pace. That's what you're looking for. You'd love 30. Realistically, I think a 25-goal pace is what you're asking out of your 2C if he's a player like Brock Nelson, who should be a goal scorer for you. And there's a lot of reason to back this up. I want to let you get a word in, but I do have his player card here. And you can see, I think maybe one of the most encouraging things is when you look at his play over the last 3 years, it's been consistent or even trended up from 23-24 to 24-25, which gives me confidence that, hey, this guy has not hit the age wall. He's not about to fall off a cliff.
No, it's going the other way. He's
Yeah,
getting better
exactly.
seasons than, you know what I mean? So it's like, and part of it is experience. Part of it is, you know, maturing. Part of it is a little bit of everything. And now you combine them, and I'm convinced. And I always say this: when you write shotgun to behind McKinnon, I do believe it's got its. I've seen it. It's got its perks. You know, you're not playing against top end, you know, top two Ds usually. That would be against Mac and, you know, whoever's with Mac, and that makes a big difference. And on the island, he was, you know, probably the guy that was playing those types of minutes, and those are heavy minutes. And
Yep.
you know, if you can get, you know, not 72, sorry, wrong league, but 82 games out of, like, you know, and he's a durable player. You know, you get that, and hopefully, you knock on wood, you know, Val and Gabe are there. Well, that's a heavy line to play against, and they're going to play heavy minutes. They should get better minutes than what he's accustomed to. When I say is better opponents, in the sense that less valued opponents, and that's going to make a big difference. I don't know. I love the signing. I love all the graphs you guys are showing because I agree with it. And, you know, this was a no-brainer. I put that in our group chat today. No-brainer. It's a no-brainer. This was a no-brainer for the Avalanche. I'm glad that the player. I always tell you, like, player has a lot to say in it. And, you know, and I know someone's talking about Marty on the right side, and yeah, when it seems complicated. Well, this deal did not seem complicated. This was, let's get away for a little bit. Let's get back to work. Let's talk, and let's knock this out. And this is exactly what they did, because as you can see from the graph right in front of us, this is an Avalanche, and it's a perfect fit for the Avalanche.
It's also a very fair point that you're talking about the competition. You see that competition's at 82% right there. He's going against the tip top against
It's
the
going to go down in
on the
Colorado.
Islanders. Yeah, on in Colorado, that's going to be more like 60%. Like he's going to be able to. They're going to be able to put him into advantageous positions in a way where when we would see previously when we would see Bednar lean on the McKinnon line and throw him out there for that, you know, they would put the one line out, McKinnon would go out, and then another line will go out, and then McKinnon will go out again. Instead of that happening, they're going to be able to go McKinnon, pick a line, and then Nelson, and then McKinnon. They're going to be able to actually give McKinnon the extra. It's probably going to come out to like 3 or 4 shifts per game, but that's going to keep him fresher. That's going to have additive effects across the totality of a regular season. But it's also going to. They're also going to be able to they're also going to be able to pick spots with Brock Nelson in a way that they haven't been with the guys that they've had the last couple of years.
Yep. I know you just talked about that line in the playoffs of Nelson, Nichushkin, Landeskog, and it being so good. And that's probably your objective, is to roll that line out there. But I think the reality of going out and getting a player that fits your system in the way Nelson does with the skating ability is just another feather in your cap of flexibility in your top six. Because with that skating ability, you feel fine putting Natchez next to him and having them run and gun style. You feel fine swapping. If you feel like you need that extra defensive punch on your top line, you can drop Natchez down and put Landy or Nichushkin, whoever you feel like is the better fit. Mm-hmm. It opens up your wings to just do whatever's working at any given time. So in that sense, makes a lot of sense too. We do need to pay a couple more bills here, so let's do that. We can finish up the Nelson talk and then maybe talk about how this sets the Avs up for the rest of their off season, because there's still a lot of work to do, as much as Nelson is very important, and I think a deal most of us like. In the immediate, though, when it comes to building a team, you got to build a good foundation. When it comes to building a house, you got to make sure you've got good floors, and that's where Empire Today comes in. Look, just like your favorite team needs a home court, ice, or field advantage, whatever sport you're watching, your home needs that flooring advantage, and that's where Empire Today comes in with their flooring experts, dedicated flooring professionals who focus on flooring every single day. Look, we've all been to stores that kind of sell sketchy junk flooring. Empire Today isn't that. They only carry the best products. They only give you the stuff that you need, whether it's tile, hardwood, or carpet. They've got it all for you. And the coolest part is you don't even have to leave your house. You can go online and use their online tools to see what flooring might look in your space. Or, of course, you can get a free in-home estimate today because some things are just better at home. DNVR listeners can even get $350 off their new floors when they use promo code DNVR. You heard that right, a $350 discount with code DNVR. Of course, restrictions apply there. Visit EmpireToday.com/DNVR for full details, or of course, you can always call 1-800-588-2300 Empire. Once you got your floors, once you're all set there, you know what? You should reward yourself with some delicious Raising Cane's food. If you're heading out on your next summer road trip, order at RaisingCanes.com or on the Cane's mobile app to satisfy your chicken finger fix in a snap. At Raising Cane's, every chicken finger is hand battered and cooked to order. Every crinkle cut fry is crispy and perfectly salted, and every Texas toast is buttered to perfection. And of course, they have the Cane sauce that is made in restaurant every day, ready to be dipped in. It's the best part. I'm not even going to lie to you. The sauce is why I go to Raising Cane's. Are you hungry yet? Get your order today at Cane's and keep the road trip going. Raising Cane's chicken fingers, one love. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. Realistically, and I think that the chat poll reflected this pretty well. I think it's a pretty exciting deal. I think most people are probably going to be pretty happy that it feels like the Avs have locked up their 2C position. You feel good about that. And at the same time, yeah, this is probably $500K to $1 million more than you wanted to pay. Also kind of the reality of the market, but I do think when you look at the $7.5 million price tag, this is the kind of sticker shock that I was expecting this season and the kind of thing that I expect to continue happening with the cap going up. It's kind of going to be the new reality of the NHL, but that's still a lot of money.
It's a lot of money, but also at the moment, before any new contracts get signed, guys get re-signed, some extensions might get put in place over the summer. Right now, in this moment, he is listed as the 37th highest paid center for next season.
So a top end
Now,
2C.
You can always grapple with, is that guy even a center anymore? You know, there are some of these guys on this list that you can positionally, there's that conversation always exists, right? Like when you look at some of these lists and you're like, but if we just narrow it down to just forwards, you're talking about he is the 58th highest paid forward next year.
Realistically, I think that's a good example. You want him to be a top 5 2C in the league. That's the objective.
Yeah.
And
go ahead.
As much as you want to sign him for $5 million, I get it. You know what I mean? We all do. Chris too, McFarland. But the player's not going to sign for $5 million, and because it's not going to happen. He's undervalued at that price. So, that the 7.5 is what it is. You would have gotten it, and that's what you pay, or you're chasing a 2C again. And you have one in your backyard that you like, he's a good person, he's a good fit, and that's what the price is, and that's I know we all saying, and trust me, we all say it, always, oh my God, it's this much or that much too much, or what I mean. But at the end of the day, that's what the price is, and you got to live with it and you got to move forward, and that's it. But he's getting it.
Yeah, well, and people are obsessed, absolutely obsessed with Nazem Kadri, and they should have just signed him. And that it's been 3 years, guys. They can't sign him. There's nothing they can do about it. Are they supposed to not sign a guy like Brock Nelson because we can't pay him more than what we wouldn't pay Nazem Kadri in a different cap world with a different cap situation internally 3 seasons ago? Like it's irrelevant data point by now. It doesn't matter anymore. Like, yeah, he's going to. What I like about this decision is they were justified in worrying about how Kadri was going to age, but Kadri's had 3 very good seasons. Like he has justified that contract. It's fine, but Brock Nelson's cap percentage is lower than what Kadri's was when he
by
signed
a
it.
full percentage point.
Yeah, a full percentage point. Like we got to let it go. Like I understand that we all loved Naz and we would have loved to seen him come back, and how things have played out over the last couple of years. It's very easy to armchair quarterback it and say they should have given it to him, but there were an enormous amount of question marks that existed there. Some of those question marks also exist in this Nelson deal. You are worried about an aging curve. He turns 34 before the start of next season. He will be 34 years old for next season. This contract runs through his age 34, 35, and 36 seasons. Those are not ages where you're expecting guys to be at their absolute best here. He just has to be good. He just has to be good. And you are worried about the aging and the effects of that decline. If they get 3 good seasons and he plays well and he justifies the contract, wonderful. But you have to know that with this getting signed, the possibility of year 3 being an ugly one for this contract and the player and the team is very real. It exists. That's just how it is. But if you win a Stanley Cup next year, you win a Stanley Cup with this guy on your roster at any point in the next 3 seasons, you don't care.
Yeah, look, the Nelson deal is a correction of this Kadri thing. Obviously, you couldn't have gone out and gotten Kadri after he signed in Calgary. But when you look at the numbers, Nelson over the last 3 years has been a 0.82 point per game player. Kadri, almost exactly the same. Like their point production over the last 3 years has been borderline identical. And
Hey,
go ahead.
no, and what we tend to forget in Calgary, he gets the
You're right.
cream of
He's
the
playing
cream
1
ice.
C minutes. Exactly.
And there's a big difference. I can't stop reiterating this. There's such a big difference. It's when you're getting those minutes and the power plays and everything. Of course, you're going to score. The 3 of us would score 20 points combined this year if we played power play. Trust me. If you're getting all that ice, your numbers will be inflated. Absolutely.
Nah,
But
I take 1
at the
shift
end,
and be out for the season, buddy.
you know what I mean. Sorry, go ahead. I just wanted to cut you off just
No,
for that
no,
because
no.
it makes such
You're
a
right.
big difference.
You're right. There is opportunity there that does matter when it comes to that. But beyond this, Nelson's actually younger than Kadri by a year. AJ already talked about on a cap percentage basis, Nelson is actually cheaper than what Kadri was when he signed his deal. A lot of this Nelson deal feels to me like the Avs saying, look, we screwed around. We tried to be cost efficient with this 2C thing for a couple of years, and it has not worked. So we're going to buckle up and pay the price to just have the spot.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like,
yeah,
they just said, hey, I hammer away. This feels like every time I'm on the pod these days, I'm talking about cost efficiency and how vital it is. But some of these spots, if he's not cost efficient, if he's a let's just say a $5 million player on a $7 million contract, okay, he gives you 50 points. Let's even undershoot it. Let's say he gives you 45 points. You're a little disappointed. You're a little disappointed. You need him to be a little bit better than that. If he gives you 55 points, you're thrilled. You're home. You're good. And you can try and get cost efficiency out of other areas of your roster. The one area I will say, if you're choosing to be cost inefficient, doing it at center is a pretty good place to do it. Because now they might be cost inefficient at 2C with Nelson maybe being overpaid by just a touch here, and Charlie Coyle definitely being overpaid, and Jack Drury right in the neighborhood of probably like right in the neighborhood though of where he should be. The one that stands out there is Charlie Coyle is going to be overpaid. For sure. He's going to be your cost inefficient one, but this is also enviable center depth, and you're no longer next season, the trade deadline. We're not talking about this. We're not looking at the Avalanche trading Mikhail Gulyayev or Ilya Nabokov to try and go out and get another center. We're not having this conversation. Right now, you're looking at the moment, they need to still do some surgery here because their cap, they're down to 1.2 million, but you move out Josh Manson, Miles Wood, you open some of that space back up. You still have to sign some guys. So there's still some work to do, but being deep at center, having an elite 1C and an elite top pairing, and both of your goaltenders signed, and which was a top 5 goaltending duo for 60% of the season, that's a really good place to start.
Yep.
That's a really, really, really good position to go into the summer with. They don't have to do any extra work to be in that position. That's the roster that they have right now. They're in a great position right there. Now they have to do work on defense. They have to do some surgery to get cost efficient elsewhere. There is work to be done. But unless they cut from those areas that I just said that they're good at, they're in a really, really, really good position right now.
I do think it's worth noting here, and E, I want to get your thoughts on the Avs' current spot as well. But most of you probably know this, but offseason, you are allowed to go up to 10% over the salary cap. So yes, the Avs do need to do that work, but they don't necessarily need to do it first. They can, if they have a deal in place to go get a guy, they can still go do that and be over the cap. Yes, that does put them maybe in a lack of leverage position to shed their cap space. But if it's a deal that's too good to say no to, you can get it done still. You don't have to worry about the cap first if you don't want to.
Agree. And a great order of business, I go back to it because now we talked about it last week, and this is not to start rumors. It's just common sense. It's always been done this way. I'm talking about with the Avalanche 1.0, 2.0. Joe being part of it, one as a player, two as front office. Chris has done a marvelous job doing it. What I'm about to say is, that's where they're going to chop. It's in the $4 million range. So pick your poison. You know what I mean? And that's where it's at. To be able to what AJ just alluded to. You're in a great position, but there's work to be done, and that's where the work will be done. It's easy to see. It's written all over your forehead. Like, if you're making around $4 million, you're subject to. And again, it's no offense to all those guys. I like all those guys, but you're subject to. You will not start the season here as an Avalanche, and that's okay. That's life, and that's how it works. But they're also respected assets around the National Hockey League. Sam Girard, somebody was talking about that earlier, and again, I want them to keep Sam Girard. So that's not what I'm saying. 31 teams will take him. People are asking about who's going to take that. 31 teams will take him. Josh Manson, you're almost at this. Yeah, maybe 31 teams. Just because he's a bit older and more injury prone, but they will take him. People were talking about Charlie Coyle. 31 teams will take him. Trust me. That's the value he has around the league. You know what I mean?
There are teams
People
in the NHL that
Charlie
would play
Coyle.
Charlie Coyle.
Yes.
Yeah,
but guys, I'm telling you, it's a luxury. It's a luxury that the Avalanche have. AJ was just talking about it then, and Jack, we all love the three of us. Jack, right? Drury, he's been awesome. And so they have net minders, they have a little bit of help in the, what do you call that? The youth or the future of goaltending, right? Nabokov, and then they have the guys to play, and then down the middle, the pillars are there at center, and then you're talking about, we tend to forget, but Nate McKinnon, Cale Makar, two of their best at their positions, arguably in the National Hockey League. So you're in great shape. And then the assets that you're trying to move, the Ross Coltons or whatever it is, they have value. They do. They really do. And again, I'm not doing this because you're talking about people's lives, and I hate doing that and starting the rumor mill. But internally, you're in a dangerous spot when you're in that salary range. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that this is who's going to get moved. You know what I mean? One of those guys. Again, is it up front or is it on the back end? And that's how it works. And you know it as being a professional athlete that that's part of the game. And unfortunately, not everyone can be kept together, and they need to change their ingredients. It didn't work. It didn't
Yep.
work. Even though I still believe they score one of those power plays um, in overtime, there they win that series in 4 or 5, but they didn't.
Yeah.
And reality is they
Yep.
lost. So once
Yeah.
you lose, then
The first thing
you
they
got to
changed was their
figure.
power play coach. So
There you go, and you got to change some ingredients, and it's just uh, very important that they do. Did you listen yesterday to Florida Panthers? And I think Maurice was talking about it, keeping it fresh, and the additions of like Marchand and Jones, and why? Because it's you can't stay still, you can't be stale. You know what I mean? And because usually that doesn't work. So you need to have a lot of both teams that are repeating as Stanley Cup finalists. They all had like 6, 7 guys that moved on and added and trimmed from the roster, whatever you want to call that. Some more important pieces than others, but so I think it's important, and I think that they're in a good position right now, and needed to have that day today. That day was massive for the Avalanche. Meaning that piece. Now it's a domino effect, and it's hard to deal in management when, let's say, you have domino A, domino B, domino C. And then all of a sudden you wait for domino A to go down, and it's not going down. It's hard to get to domino B. You know what I mean? So Avalanche obviously clearly had addressed domino A, the Nelson situation. You know what I mean? Because it was dictating. So kudos to them. Like I said, now you can go to your B part. Okay, and then C, and then go from there.
the biggest signing of the offseason is done. Not to say there won't be other
Yeah.
significant signings, but the biggest one is now done for the Colorado Avalanche. AJ has been writing up a storm all morning, so make sure you're becoming a DNVR diehard. So when that post goes out, you'll be able to read all about this Brock Nelson situation. Bunch of other great content on there too, including our last roundtable, where, spoiler alert, all of us said the biggest thing was the 2C spot in Brock Nelson. So
Yeah, now what?
yeah, right. What's next? That'll be our next roundtable when you become a diehard. Jump in. When you do sign up to be a diehard, you get a bunch of great perks, including a free shirt. You can't get this one because, BSN OG, but you can get the DNVR version. You can get a bunch of discounts at the bar and a bunch of other amazing stuff. Go check it out. Use that QR code on screen. There you go. He's got the Carry Me Home shirt. Go support us if you like us. If you hate us, thanks for watching anyway. Look, actually, really quickly, a quick answer in the chat. Chapet, I don't know how to say your name. If you're over capped, what is the deadline for fixing that? You have to be cap compliant when you submit your 23-man roster at the start of the season.
Yeah, like October 5th or something. Like, there's time.
Yeah,
They've
plenty
got
of time.
So, do you remember a couple years ago when the Capitals were like $9 million over or whatever? Like they were like $200,000 from the absolute limit for the entire offseason. That was a great time. It was a great time.
There was a couple of days there where it was like, I guess we're just saying this guy's not on their NHL roster, because then they'd be like $13 million over or something.
Hey,
like, okay.
can I? And by the way, while you were talking about the ads there, I just saw something in chat. I don't remember who it was from, so I apologize, because everyone knows I can't see. Even on my computer, I can't see. Somebody talked about, we should have never let Forsberg go in 05. You know what I mean? Right? Honestly, like, I think we were at 70 million our payroll. And this is the lockout. And then I think what did it go the first year of the lockout? 39? 38?
Yeah, it was in the 30s.
44 or something. That must have been the
No,
next year.
no.
44.
Oh, it was in the 30s. It was in the 30s?
It was in the 30s.
And I'll tell you one thing. Not to go back, but just it's spitting facts here. My dad, there was no better fan of Peter Forsberg than my dad. You guys know that. Again, loved all the guys, loved all the players, but I can tell you, people used to say all the time that Peter was his real son and I was adopted, so, which is fine, you know what I mean? But, everybody was kind of making a joke that way, you know what I mean? That he was in love with Peter, which was true, to be honest with you. But remember, it was a rollback It was 39. Thank you, Joseph.
You got the compliance
It,
buyouts. Yeah.
yeah, they were to 79. He had all the rollbacks, right? You know, so guys that were making 10 went down to 7.5, whatever it was, which was stupid. I can't believe they agreed to that, but whatever. That's the player rep and me talking. But that's how crazy it was because you were sitting there, and you got to remember 2001, the big three, right? Blake Wasakic signed at midnight, free agency. They all got those big deals, and and Peter got an extension. You know, I mean, even though he had a year left, so he was always behind those guys, or 2 years left. So Peter ended up with the guy with no deal. You know what I mean? Like Peter ended up with the guy with no deal, like in '05. Those other guys were all signed. Peter's the guy sitting there with no deal, and Peter had to play for 700 grand to fit in the. And it was unbelievable because it was such a heartbreaking like decision. It's not even a decision. You're sitting there and you're telling Peter Forsberg, the only way you can play here is to play for 700 grand. You know what I mean? And that was like, it was embarrassing.
Yeah,
And it was
that's
heartbreaking, you know?
right.
So,
It's just an unfortunate timing thing, right? When
no, I know. That's what I was saying. But it's like, you're talking about your timing of when your deal is. His was the opposite of the guys, you know what I mean? Like
right.
the top guys. Um,
And that's what Jonathan Drouin is experiencing right now.
and that's it, right? You know, I mean, to a certain
Bruin's getting
extent.
rocked right now.
And then, but Forsberg to play for 700 grand was the funniest thing. You know, not funny. It wasn't funny at the time because it's like, what? And that's why he signed in Philly, right? You know, I mean, those were crazy times, by the way. COVID was crazy, but that was, I would tell you that was the second craziest thing for me. The rollback and everything.
Understanding where the Avs are at, yes, they have 1.2 million in cap space, but really they can use more than that. They do need to clear up some cap space. Realistically, the holes in their roster right now that still need to be filled are a couple of forwards in their bottom six and a couple of defensemen, plus plugging any holes they end up creating by trading players. I know go ahead.
I just want to, so you want to keep that fourth line together. So, and you really want to try and keep Ross Colton and Charlie Coyle together. So let's say you have one third line wing spot that you're trying to fill right now, okay? And we've talked about if Yoel Kiviranta doesn't get the big market and is willing to sign for $1 million, that's an easy yes. Shockingly, the AFP contract model has him at $1 million right now for 2 years. That would be an easy yes for me, and would help them a ton. That would be a good outcome for this. Sam Malinsky, again, contract model has him at 1.5 for 2 years. That would be fine. You can live with that. Then you have the third pairing spot. The other third pairing spot opposite of Sam Malinsky is where you're sitting and you're going, okay,
the
what
Ryan
do we do
Lindgren
here?
Conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's if you were to dump Manson, and let's say you trade Josh Manson for a second round pick, and maybe you give a fourth round pick so that that team will also take on Miles Wood's deal. Like that's like a, you know,
Cool. You're right back up to $8 million in cap space.
Exactly. And then you use that $8 million, you would have to spend the money on both of those defense spots.
Yep.
That's a good offseason. Like that's an offseason that you like. That $8 million would actually be less than that because let's say $1 million to Kiviranta. That puts you at $200,000. So, and then the 1.5 to Malinsky. So you're
more like 5.5.
Yeah, you're right around $6 million to spend those on those two spots there. Okay.
Yep.
If you were able to do something like that, that's kind of what I think you have to do next on your list. There is,
and that seems totally reasonable. You can go out and try to find a number 4 for $4-ish million, and then round out your bottom pairing for $1 million, $1.5 million, whatever the actual number ends up being.
Yeah, the hard part is the Avs love Ryan Lindgren, and are they going to pay $3 million for him to be a third pairing defenseman?
tough value proposition.
Yep. That's exactly my concern, though, is that if you put yourself in that box where you re-sign Ryan Lindgren, okay, and then you re-sign Sam Malinsky, your defense is almost entirely the same. You're going to try and trade Josh Manson for salary cap space, but now who's playing there? What's the plan? Where's the guy that you're getting? Now you're almost out of space here. So I'm just the reason that you would want to trade Manson would be a handful of them. He's only got 1 year left on his deal, which is appealing to other teams. The $4.5 million, as Eric mentioned, is that contract range that you're worrying about.
Yep.
And then the availability. All of the reasons that the Avs would want to trade Manson are all of the reasons that other teams
You're
would have
afraid of
pause
Lindgren.
of trading for Josh Manson. And yes, a lot of those things are repeated with Ryan Lindgren. The very similar downsides, except Lindgren is always hurting. He's always dealing with something, always beat up, and doesn't have the same size. Even if he is as physical as he is and loves to get into it with guys and has high-end character, you love that, right? He's still not Josh Manson. Like, Josh Manson's just better at that part of the game than he is.
You can do everything right. If you're not on the ice, doesn't matter.
Yep. I mean, availability, we talk about this all the time. But availability is a huge, huge, huge thing. And then you look at the defense market this summer, and I had it in our round table. My like fear is Cody Ceci.
Please don't. Please don't.
He was god awful for Dallas this year. Had its moments in Edmonton, but consistently has been a problem. It's easy, I think, to fall in love with a guy like Nick Perbix, who is awesome. I really like him, but that's not a second pairing guy for me, and maybe a little more puck oriented at times. I'm just not. Anyway. You look into the market for the defensemen, and where are you getting a good value here? And because there's so few available as is, I really, really, really don't know.
Is there a position that's more bait than the sheltered puck moving defenseman?
I mean, I texted Eric yesterday and was like, Derek Forbort for $2 million, and he's like, hey, he's a great PK guy, and I'm like, God, dude, you're not. Here comes
By
Jack
the way,
Johnson.
E, that's what you sound like in AJ's head.
Yes, I know. That was good. That was good. I just got to add to it. We have 2 minutes. I just want to say Joey B was making me laugh there. Sorry. Because he said something earlier, and he's right. I wanted to say something. He was talking about who smoked more, Guy Lafleur or Zubov. Like, well, Guy Lafleur was notorious for taping his sticks at 4 p.m. right before a game in the stands, having a few darts. You know what I mean? Like, while taping his sticks. So that was like not even hiding in the laundry room or whatever. Zubov, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of guys that were notorious. I got to be honest with you. I'm not that old, and I'm telling you right now, even with the Avalanche, I won't name names. But man, that laundry room was busy in between periods. You know what I mean? And it was funny. You know what I mean? And I wasn't one of them. But my guy that sat next to me in the stall was next. That was one of the notorious smoker. And yeah, those guys were. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you could do that and then go skate. So it was crazy.
As we're heading into overtime here, I would say the number of Hall of Fame hockey players that smoke would probably be concerningly high for a lot of people.
It's crazy. Oh, my God.
There was a question in chat there. Again, as we're heading into overtime, head on over to the DNVR.com for continued conversation. Yeah. If you do move on from someone like a Manson, if you don't want to bring back a Lindgren, where do the Avs find that snarl or physicality or even an enforcer if you want to take it that far?
Well, they got Middleton in that enforcing thing. I think that. But you're talking about on the day-to-day. What, Jack Eye? You want Jack Eye? There's no way they're trading Jack Eye. No way.
I love that guy.
Oh, I
The
love them too.
easiest,
That's
easiest
why
shirt of all time for us to just make a Wi-Fi symbol
Oh,
on a shirt and call it
are you
good.
serious? Unreal. Um, um, uh, anyway, sorry. Yeah, but I think Middleton, but I do agree, and that's why Josh. That's why I like Josh. You know what I mean? But you got to find, like I said, that's where pro scouting comes into effect. Look at Florida. You know, Nate Schmidt. I would have told you last year I wouldn't touch him. Look how well he's doing right now. It's a question of fit. And if you're talking about, again, Nate Schmidt is not a physical deed. It's not what I'm saying. But, you know, for what you need, you can look around. You look around the American League. You can look around. There's players that you can find that, you know, talks about you can find a fit for you that what you're missing. And, you know, so, yeah, I mean, I do believe if you move on from Josh, then you got to replace that snarl a little bit, you know. And somebody's talking about the sniffles last 2 days. Yeah, I apologize. I got the sniffles. I mean, that's just, you know, it happens, right? What I got to do? Trying my best. Most guys would be in a hospital bed with, you know, an IV, and I'm not me. I'm right here. You know what I mean? Fight through. You know what I mean? I'm
Hero
not
mode.
on the. Yeah, I'm not on the IR. I'm just doing it. No, I'm just kidding. So, and then somebody else said about Chad earlier too. I just want to. They said that the Forsberg didn't sign, but they signed Turgeon and Breezeball. Yeah, well, exactly. You know, they were a cup contending team, and they found low bargain deals on guys like that. And you know, but Forsberg wasn't going to play for whatever those guys signed, which was, I believe, was around $1 million. And you got to remember, that's when they moved on from Footy too, because Footy had to go because his deal was the same thing. So then it had opened up a little bit of money, and so that's what it was. Not sure what that meant, but you got to have players to play, you know. So, but they weren't going to ask
The
Peter Forsberg to play for that money, and he didn't want to either.
the last thing I wanted to touch on with Nelson signing for 3 years, the Avs forward core currently has 8 forwards signed for the next 2 years. 9 if you want to count Drury because he's an RFA after this season, so they retain his rights. Now, one of those is Miles Wood, so take that for whatever you want. But a significant portion of their forward core is set for the next 2 years. AJ mentioned it earlier. Natchez is probably the biggest one that isn't set there, and then Charlie Coyle. So 3C, a spot you have to solve. You have to make a decision with Natchez, whether that's extending him for whatever the price or getting value or whatever. But after a couple of years where the Avs have had 1 billion questions going into the season, yes, the Avs still have plenty of questions to answer this offseason. But with Nelson locked up in 2C, it feels like most of these questions should be solved by opening day. Colorado has set themselves up to have a more steady lineup if they do the work they need to do this offseason. We do have one super chat to get to here. Melanie with the $5 says, just wanted to say hi and thank you. Appreciate you, Melanie. Appreciate all of you here. I know the news brings everybody out, but 400 people watching us live on an off day in the off season. It's pretty cool stuff. We appreciate all y'all. Wanted to come out and talk Brock Nelson and otherwise about the Colorado Avalanche. Any final thoughts from you two, or should we get out of here for the day?
No, I mean, I think we've got a lot of time to continue to talk about free agents and kind of what needs to happen to tweak the defense, because I think that's next. That's the next area of the roster that we're going to turn the focus to. A third line wing is it's just not like a high priority right now. And I'm excited, man. I'm excited that we can stop talking about this until Brock Nelson has 14 points through 45 games and we're right back in it. That's going to suck, but for right now, I'm excited that we don't have to talk about it the rest of the summer.
I told you before the show, if that happens, the Avs just need to run 3 wings on their second line at that point, all right? They're not allowed to have a 2C if it doesn't work again. Final thoughts?
Final thought, Max Powers right there. It's got me going. I love it. What's Romanov at? Give me numbers right now.
Nah, you're not getting
yeah, he's at untouchable because Darsh said he's part of their core. He's a RFA. He needs a new deal. He's about to get paid.
So no good. Shut Shoot, but I like that, Max. You got me going there. God, I love that dude. You talk about a wild
Yeah.
card. That guy's a wild card. Woo.
He's an experience. Yeah, that guy on any given night, Romanov is either dominating you physically or he's playing Ole. Like he's just not a. He's all over the
I know.
the board. Very very fun to
I
watch.
like-
I like him a lot.
You know, I like that. I like unpredictable.
Yeah.
Let the chaos reign. We are out of here for today. We appreciate you hanging out. We will be back tomorrow, maybe talking, honestly, probably more cost efficiency, maybe some decent options for the Avs and what they can look for there. We appreciate y'all. We'll see you on the next one. This has been the DNVR Avalanche podcast. Goodbye.
We all silly like the mayor.